Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana.
And by Visit Baton Rouge and the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and viewers like you. Thank you.
Outside of working for a moon landing, there were more challenges for NASA employees and contractors.
You knew when you went to work that what you were doing was important. I think the only downside was, particularly for married people with family, it took its toll.
All of us went home at night to our families. Well, my wife would say, "How was it today?" And I would only say one thing: hectic.
Especially on the Apollo program, it became sort of your whole life. It was exciting, it was challenging, but it was a lot of job satisfaction.
As one who is a member of the community, and I have a family, and I'm trying to function as a father and a husband, and I have to admit that got challenged because of the intensity of what we were doing out here.
Well, we had a lot of divorces. We had a lot of young electrician guys on, and they were down here and they were making swamp pay and overtime. They'd work for 6 months on a vehicle, and we'd get like 2 months off in between if we were lucky. And they wanted a party, and there was always a launch party too at the end of the thing. So I got calls 3 days after the launch, where's my husband? What do I know? I got named as a correspondent in a divorce case as the guy's boss because I made him work so much overtime.
I know that there were family issues. And I, as a manager, had to, of course, deal with that. And I had to counsel people that in spite of how hard we're working, I recognize you got to have some time. I don't want to say things like, well, yeah, the divorce rate went up. It did, during those days.
Share your own moon memories using the hashtag #MoonMemories.
Hey, I'm Keith Spiro from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. My guest this week on Let's Talk is David Shaw, the singer from The Revivalists, who is also a relatively new father. What's more exhausting, singing for a rock and roll band or being a dad?
Whew. I'll let you answer that one.
I've never been a rock and roll singer,
I think
but
you know the answer to that.
It's being a dad. It's being a dad. All right, tune in this week to hear more tales from rock and roll and fatherhood on Let's Talk.
We're local and entertaining. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans. Good evening and welcome back to Primetime Sports. That's right, it's a brand new show, a brand new studio, and it's a brand new night. That's right, we're still in prime time. We're now Wednesday night at 7 p.m. in prime time, so let's get rolling. It's October and the football season is in full swing, and unfortunately, it isn't the way it started for the Saints in the last 3 games, because last night on Monday night, or 2 nights ago, they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead, and that is no bad thing because Chiefs are the defending 2-time Super Bowl champions. However, the way they lost, it was lackluster, 26-13. It's their 3rd loss in a row after 2 impressive wins to start the season. They need a win in the worst way, and they have this Sunday coming in. Division rival Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are already in town practicing because of Hurricane Milton. And prayers go out to everybody in Tampa. We know it's going to be a tough time for them. But moving forward, college football, it was upset Sunday. How about this? Everybody knows that #1 Alabama fell to Vanderbilt, but it wasn't just them. 5 of the top 11 teams in the country, well, they got beat, and they got beaten. If it wasn't for Cal blowing a 35-10 lead late Saturday night against Miami, it would have been 6 of the top 11. You know, Bama, Tennessee, Missouri, you had Michigan and USC all fell, and they all dropped in the polls. But one team that's not dropping is the Tulane Green Wave. How about the Greenies? They won 71-20, a game against UAB that they were up 37-6 at the half. John Summerall has got this Wave team rolling. He's going to be here today to talk all about it. They're in a bye week. Their next game is going to be against Rice. And guess what? They got 2 votes already in the top 25, so they're moving up after 2 early season losses. Now they're on a 3-game win streak. And speaking of that, the Tigers, they have a top 10 matchup. The LSU Tigers and Ole Miss Rebels play this Saturday night, 6:30 at ABC. They square off, and I can't wait. The Tigers are on a 4-game win streak since losing that opener to USC, and this is going to be great because they're one of only 3 undefeated teams in the SEC in conference, that is, along with #1 Texas and Texas A&M. And speaking of LSU, Garrett Nussmeier is their quarterback now, but last year it was Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels. How about them? He is rolling right now. The #2 pick of the draft is clearly the front runner for Rookie of the Year, and he's got the perennial cellar dweller Washington Commanders. They have 4-1 on top of the NFC East as we speak. It's going to be a great show. Like I mentioned, John Summerall. We also have two-sport legend, 2-time national champion in 2 sports, Chad Jones is joining us, Tiger, and also Sonny Lee from Son of a Saint. He's coming up next right here on Primetime Sports.
Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, it is so good. I know I said this in the open, but just to be back into not just the new studio, but just to be back doing the show again, it's fun, and I can't wait for my first guest after 5 months on the road. Here we go. Sonny Lee. Vivian Sonny Lee. Y'all know the Son of a Saint organization. And if you're old like me, you remember his dad who played for the New Orleans Saints back in the 70s, Vivian Lee. He was a defensive back. Well, his son is now running an organization, Son of a Saint, that takes care of kids that are fatherless. And they have done such an amazing job over the last 10, 11 years. They have 300-plus kids in their program, and here he is. We'll learn more about it. Sonny, what's up, man?
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate this. It's great to be here.
I've seen you twice in the last 2 years at the Tulane function. We're going to have Coach Summerall.
Oh, awesome.
The year before, it was Willie Fritz, and this year. But each time I see you, I'm like, I've been wanting to get this guy on this show for a long time because I like stories.
Yes.
And you've got an amazing one.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. It's been great seeing you. And, you know, my story kind of goes back. I'm from New Orleans. Unfortunately, my father passed when I was 3 years old of a heart attack. He was 36.
Wow.
Played for the Saints, defensive back. My mother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis after that, but she raised my sister, and I don't know if you know my sister. She was Tamika Lee. She was a news anchor for a while.
For WGNO,
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, went to school, went to St. Aug, went to UNO, worked with the Saints, worked with in jazz for a while in my 20s, and I just really got inspired to support boys that were growing up without their dads, similar to how I was growing up.
Around? I knew you probably thought about this for a long time. I'm just asking for curious questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
When did this come around that you wanted to make this your calling?
Well, I guess I'll tell you, growing up, I always we did a ton of volunteering as a family.
Yeah.
I was even at Magnolia Pet Hospital giving my time when I was a teenager. I mean, I was always in that space. So I also signed up to be a mentor back in my early 20s for another program. So I was sort of building up to this, I guess. When I was 29, I saw that a boy murdered another boy on the news. And I did some research, and both of them lost their fathers to violence.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I was like, look, I want to do something to help out. You know, I just wanted to really duplicate what my mom gave me. You know,
Right,
she's an amazing woman in my sort of village that I had. And I started writing down everything and formed our logic model. And I didn't have connections to kids, so I just went to the park, tapped on the shoulder, said, hey, I'm trying to mentor kids. Can you connect with their moms? Their moms were there. They were growing up fatherless. And long story, but here we are today. I mean, that was
beautiful.
13 years ago. So,
it's amazing what
yeah,
you've done. I
thank
know you have some great people supporting the organization.
Yep.
Obviously, the Saints.
Yep.
Obviously, son of a Saint. Now, of course, Ochsner Health has done a great job. The facility is one of the first things that struck me because you see these. I've lived all around the country, and I've seen different organizations, and some of them do great work. But I've never seen one that is as clean, and I mean clean like it runs so well, and it's done for all the right reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, for me, I want it to be run well. I don't want any disqualifiers, right? Like when you're running nonprofits, you know, I want everything to be clean, every open book for anybody, but also hiring the right staff.
Yes.
People who really care about the mission, can see themselves with us for a long time is also important. But I went and actually got my master's in nonprofit administration from Notre Dame.
Afterward?
After, yeah.
Wow.
So I got it like 3 years ago. And it was interesting. They were using a lot of Son of a Saint's work in their studies and things like that. I mean, we were doing our capital campaign, talking about that, board management,
How
all
long
of that.
ago was that?
That was about 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, look, I had to grow to this, you know. I mean, it wasn't, I think leading with obviously just bringing good people around was a start, but I wasn't, you know, when I started this, it wasn't like I was just a nonprofit master, right? Like I had to sort of build up and make mistakes along the way and grow from those. And I think, you know, the biggest thing for me, especially early, I held a lot of the boys tight because I didn't trust other people to have the same sort of care that I did.
100%.
And I had to get through all of that and sort of open up and allow others to come in. And so that's how we grew. We grew because I was able to get the right people involved and obviously let go a little bit and you know, let them. It's the hardest thing to do. Yeah, it really is, especially when you're dealing with kids. Especially when you're working with moms and moms have to trust you with their sons.
100%, yeah.
And so it was a lot of work building, having relationships with the schools, and it was just a ton of work. But it's very, very rewarding. It doesn't feel like a day of work, and we have so many great people and supporters in the community that want to see us grow and succeed.
That's such a beautiful thing. I mean, listen, from the outside looking in, you see organizations, some do great things, but this one it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And I don't know if Will's shown the pictures yet because our studio's just here, but the Ochsner Health facility, I mean, when I looked at that, I started digging in a little bit. I'm like, this is mind-blowing. I mean, you obviously have some great support, but the way you go about your business is what makes this the right thing. You know.
And I think finding partners that are aligned with your mission, right, with our mission, and making it sort of a win-win, right? Like some initiatives that they're trying to put out there matches up with ours. I mean, we're dealing with humans, so it's almost just about anything can partner with us. So, but obviously, Ochsner Health and being great community partners.
They're all about the community these days, which is really
it's
really interesting to see because obviously they've been a big hitter in in hospital chains for a long time, but now they're focusing on community, and it's obviously coming through with efforts like yours. But I want to ask you a question I think most people might have. How do you get your kids? I know you're going for fatherless kids, and when do you start? How long do you take them? And just general stuff that I'm sure you've answered a million times.
Sure. So boys join our programming between the age of 10 and 12. And we're preventative, so it's before they get high school. Some negative factors sort of start to show themselves.
Perfect age, right?
Our boys, we have roughly about 350 boys we're serving annually right now. We'll probably be up to 500 boys in January, so there'll be some growth there.
Wow.
And that's a mixture of our core boys in our program, our alumni, and our scholars program that we have. But in our core boys, like I said, those boys that join 10 to 12, they're with us until they're 21 years old. Roughly 70% of them, their fathers have been lost to violence, about 20% long-term incarceration, over 15 or more years left to serve. We have some that their fathers have died of a natural cause or an accident. So 100% of our boys will not have a physical connection with their father, right, in the years coming, obviously. So we want to help support that. Now, with Son of a Saint, we have a case team model. So you have a Son of a Saint boy, a case manager, a mental health specialist.
Oh, wow.
in-house.
Each kid.
Mental
so they
health
have a full
specialist.
team.
Full team.
It's not like a sponsor for Alcoholics Anonymous or something. It's not one person. You have a group of people.
Yeah, it's a group of people, and that group, that case team usually has between 50 to 60 boys that they're constantly on a daily basis supporting. They have a mentor. They have over 30 to 50 activities a month, from fishing to equine therapy to cooking. I mean, you name it. A lot of travel, summer camps. Our boys are going to camps across the country and partnerships. A lot of these relationships have been built over the years, and these are opportunities for our boys to really experience something different, you know, and grow their
It was
their friend
mind-blowing
group.
when I looked at your stuff, because you went through your social media stuff, but just the variety.
Yes.
And you're well-rounding these kids. It could be some camp out. It could be literally doing improv with Chris True.
Yeah, comedy
I mean, but
sessions.
it's everything. You go into the parks, you go into the zoo, you go into the lazy river.
Yep.
You're giving these children who wouldn't have a well-rounded situation. Most kids don't. And
exactly, and I know that you know, these are things that we're very fortunate to have, these relationships that we've been able to build. But a lot of those activities are meant for, you know, the mentor to take his mentee, or the mentee to go on his own. We have an app, or meaning on his own, but to mingle with his peers. We have an app that we put all these activities on, and they RSVP, so the mentor can take his kid, and he doesn't have to think about, what am I going to do with my mentee? This is all. There's no out of pocket cost. We've gone to games and field trips. I mean, it's just a lot of different things. Because I know that was one of my challenges when I was at a separate organization when I was early in my career, mentoring. I was trying to figure out what to do. Right. With you know, he didn't like sports, so I was like, oh well, okay, we got to figure out that. And so it can be tough to try to figure out what to do with the boy, you know, and. But
even
that's why
getting a young kid, it's so expensive to go to a professional game.
Yes, yeah.
The Saints, did they? I mean, I have pictures of you with the kids on the field. That's got to be an amazing experience. But do those organizations help you out with tickets? How does that work?
Yeah, so you'll have different organizations that buy in bulk, or maybe sometimes they have suite tickets, sometimes. And
the kids are in the suite?
Sometimes, no. Sometimes
am I too old?
No. You might have them, but I think what it is, it's not just. And when I say that, I mean that in a humbling way. Because,
no, I know you do. I know.
You know, sometimes they, you know, it's an opportunity for them to have time with their mentor. You know what I mean? Or it's an appreciation as well, and you can use these things as real rewards. But it's really our boys. We want to put them around things that are really going to shock them, and let them see, wow, this is the possibility. This is, I just have to get good grades, be a good participant, you know, meet my goals, and I can get rewarded. And so once we condition them to do that, sky's the limit, really. And it's not always, obviously, those experiences. Our boys do a ton of volunteer work. Like, that's part of the requirement. And when you ask our boys, what are some of the most impactful things that you've done with Son of a Saint, a lot of times it's a travel experience, but a lot of times it's helping others. That's like one or two. And so
helping others.
Yeah, it's helping others. Right. So you build that, you know, within them, and you get great results. We don't have boys in the judicial system. I think that's very important.
That's amazing to me. I heard the stat. You know, someone told me that when you spoke at a luncheon recently, that you have over 300 kids and there's no incarcerations, which is a testament to everything you do, because it's almost impossible in a numbers game not to have that.
It is. And look, I mean, will we always be like that? I don't know. I mean, I will say that our track record is very good in that way, but I think it's because we're getting them a little early.
And you're showing them love.
And you're showing them love.
A different way of life, right?
And I'll also say it's not always easy, right? Like, we have those challenges. It's not like our boys are not one step from that, or that they're not around a group that is in that, you know, but it's being able to talk to them and listen, and, you know, give them tools that they need to get out of bad situations and to make the right ones.
Right,
you know?
right.
We go to schools all the time, I mean, and talk to the teachers, what's going on. We're there in their IEP meetings if they have. We have full-time mental health specialists, like I said, so it's extremely active. And it's something that not only our boys, I mean, kids out there in general could use, but we do know that when we look at boys, especially that are in the criminal justice system or have negative outcomes. They're boys that do not have dads, and they're already in usually a poverty-stricken situation.
Yeah.
So with a lot of trauma. So those are the boys that we're specifically targeting to be in our program. You know, we can't take thousands of kids, and you know, we wish we could, but being super targeted, I think, is the reason why we've been successful and not veering off from that. And we take a 2-generational approach where we're also supporting the guardian and bringing resources there. And if they need anything, we can give them, you know, help them with applications or help them find a job, or our nutrition program, help them with that. So it's a lot of different things.
You're taking them all the way through 21. I mean, you're seeing them graduate from high school, which is a big accomplishment for many.
100% high school graduation, and a lot of our boys going to college, 80% going to college.
West Point,
20,
we got
one at West Point.
You have to feel so proud. I mean, just for the kid himself. Like, he has accomplished it himself. Y'all give him the guidance.
He is, but all the credit, honestly, it goes to the staff, it goes to the team, it goes to our boys for wanting to participate in this program, especially so long, to the guardians as well. I mean, but our boys, I mean, my first boys, I'd say when I was just me for the first 3-4 years, probably 40, 50 boys that I had. Now they're about 22, 23, and so they're graduating and they're coming back and being mentors. So it's really cool to have that relationship with
I moved back 12 years ago, right, from being away for several years. I'm from here. But I just remember seeing this from afar and watching it grow, and what you've done is spectacular. Before we run out of time, there's 2 things I want to hit.
Sure.
One is the mentorship thing, because, and you don't have to expound too much, but but when you have, if there's somebody out here watching and they're like, hey, I've been wanting to do something, how do they get qualified? How does it work? And if they want to do it?
Well, one, they can go to our website, fill out the information, and there's many ways to be a mentor. It could be one-on-one mentoring, group mentoring. We have transportation mentors and tutoring. So all of that's on our website. We have a great volunteer manager and team that'll then take that, do an interview, come to a training, your background check. I mean, you could really get it connected with us in the first, you know, in about 2 months, you could be an official mentor.
That's
with
really cool.
Saint.
That's cool.
Yep.
So it's sonofasaint.org
is
what it is. Hey, also the gala that's coming up. Some say gala or gala.
Gala.
It's November 22nd, I believe.
Yeah, November 22nd.
And kind of explain what that is, if the public can go. What is it?
Yeah, it's our biggest fundraiser of the year. We do it annually in the 4 seasons.
Is that when you have one of those nice bow ties
you
on?
have to have a tuxedo on.
You look darn good in the tux, I gotta say.
Yeah, and my wife too. She always
Rosie.
Great.
Let's give her a shout out.
Rosie is amazing. We actually met. She actually taught one of the boys in Son of a Saint. That's how we met several years ago, and we got married recently.
And you're expecting a child.
Yeah, in February, right after the Super Bowl. We're expecting
when the Saints take it
exactly.
home.
Let's do it. Why not?
Son of a Saint. Hey, we give gifts too. And by the way, Rosie, I got to meet her and spend a little time with her at the Tulane function.
Yes.
She's an amazing young lady. And congrats on the child.
Thank you so much.
So this is a new color we just got recently.
I love this.
And it'll
match my hair.
Silver. It matches. Oh my gosh, it's perfect. But this is even softer than they have ever. Feel that.
Oh man.
It's unbelievable, right? And so we're going to even give one, you know, Rosie's expecting.
Yeah.
This is it's a long sleeve, it's lavender. I hope she enjoys it.
Thank you so much. Task, this is awesome.
Yeah, Task Performance, I should say that. Yeah. I just want to thank you personally for what you do for our city.
Yep.
I mean, listen, I've moved away for a long time, but I always knew I was coming back.
Yeah.
And we all want this city to be great.
Absolutely.
And people like you are helping that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Absolutely. Thanks
for having me. It's been a pleasure. This is not going to be your last time.
No, I hope not.
We got all that stuff. We're going to start talking about Saints and other stuff. Hey, Sonny Lee, if you are able to contribute, you know, this is, when I say a good cause, these people do it for the right reasons, and they're helping so many people that need it. So there you go. We're going to move on. I've got a well-rounded show. Hey, we got the Saints just covered. We got Tulane later. That's right, the Tulane head coach who I had on this show right after he got the job back in December. Well, now you're seeing a little bit of what he can do. This guy is a baller. He's coming up later in the show, and that is John Summerall. But coming up next is one of my favorite athletes of all time. There's very few that have won national championships as a starter, a main-type player in both football and baseball, but my next guest has Chad Jones, one of the greatest athletes to ever wear the purple and gold, coming up next with his son, Chad Jones Jr., who's a linebacker now at St. Aug. He was at Southern Lab in Baton Rouge last year. Can't wait for that. Stay tuned. Right here, Primetime Sports.
All right.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans. baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's both let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At the mid-city lanes, the home of rock and roll.
The owners of the Delachey's Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachey, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachey, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. That was so much fun with Sonny Lee. I remember his dad back in the day playing at the old Tulane Stadium where the Saints played for their first 8 or so years before they moved to the Dome. And speaking of that, my next guest, Dad, played on the Tulane team that started out in the Dome in 1975. Remember, they were always playing in Sugar Bowl Stadium, Tulane Stadium, that seated 80,000 fans back then. And I remember that Tulane LSU game in 1973. I was there, 84,000. Got into an 80,000 seat stadium, but he played, and it's a lineage. He's sitting here watching the show right now. He played from 75 to 78 for the Green Wave, and then my next guest, we had him on 8 years ago. And his name is Chad Jones. When pound for pound, when you talk about some of the greatest athletes in any sport that LSU's had, I'm going to give the nod to this guy right here. In fact, Tyrann Mathieu said the same thing. We'll get to that in a tweet. But here we got another special guest. This is the third of the group of the generations. It's Chad Jones Jr. And he was at Southern Lab last year in Baton Rouge where they won a state championship. Well, he's back home in New Orleans where he grew up, and he's at St. Aug, one of the most historic, prominent high schools in the history of this city and state. And welcome here. It's good to see. Good to see you again, first of all, man.
Appreciate it.
And nice to meet you. Pleasure. So I love that your dad came, and I remember we were talking. You said, "Hey, you mind if my son and my dad come?" I'm like, "Absolutely," because I love the family thing. This dynamic right here, father and son, I've had the Bobby Hebert, T-Bob.
Of course.
I've had Rich Marty, his son, who played obviously Penn State for the Saints. Yes. We've had Jay Tyler and Herb Tyler, his dad. We've had a bunch of these combinations, and I just love to see it when you're following the footsteps. So I'm going to talk to you first.
There you go.
What is it like to have a dad that is like when people that know, like if they watched him in baseball or football back in the day, this dude was a dude. So what's it like having a father like that following the footsteps?
It's cool. I mean, you get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
I mean, people look at you like different. They look at you different. They expect a lot.
Did you ever want to play, like he was a DB, and I mean, he could come in and stick you too, but you're a linebacker. Yeah. Was it any thought process on what position you wanted to play growing up?
Yeah, I played a lot of different positions growing up, actually, but I knew linebacker was going to be for me.
You like to hit?
I like to hit a lot.
You like to hit. What were you on offense when you played offense?
Played running back.
You miss it?
Yeah, I like running back too, actually.
We're going to get to the recruiting process you're going through. You're just a junior. I did a show where we had the top seniors in Atlanta. They fly into Atlanta and be on the show. But you're getting recruited as a junior, which is very nice. But let's talk about what's going on in your world, man. I had you on. I know you had that tragic accident back in 2010-ish or somewhere around there, right? Was it right after you got drafted?
2010,
right after the draft. So what's life been like? I know I had you, what was it, 8 years ago? And that was only 6 years after it. So what's life been for you since then when you're on the show for the last 8 years?
Well, you know, life, no one can kind of know how life is going to be. You know, it's just such things that's happened to me. But I've found a way through sales. Yeah. And also property management, and also real estate. So that's what I've been getting into later in my later life as of right now. But you know, raising the kids, have the 8 and 9-year-old girls.
It's the most important job in the world, by the way.
That's what's 100%. Been going on. So I have the 8 and 9-year-old girls, and Chad Jr. He's getting more serious and more active in his young career as well. So I'm just trying to help and support the kids. That's my life as of right now.
I had a friend that lives in Houston. That's a big LSU guy. Text me about some stuff, and he said, "Oh, I told my show's coming back finally," and I told him you were going to be on the first show, and he's like, "Oh my God, one of the greatest players at LSU." And I said, "Even better than that, I've gotten to know him a little better now, and he's one of the more positive human beings, especially considering what you've gone through. How do you keep that positivity?
Well, I've always tried to find some type of understanding. Find something so I can wrap my mind around what I've gone through. Because if I haven't found that understanding, I don't know where I would be as a man, as a father. So just knowing that things are just a little bit bigger than just me. Yeah. Had to come to grasp with that over time as well, but help from my parents, my mother, my father, great supporting cast as well. But just getting back to my roots, getting back to my roots and overcoming that adversity. That's just what I truly focused on, and it wasn't easy by any chance. Sure. I had trainers that would come knock on my door when I wouldn't show up to practice. So I had my down times, but coming over that adversity.
I'm going to say a quick overview for people that don't know, because I'm sure there's a segment out there that is not completely familiar. I'm not necessarily calling about the accident, but this was a big-time player. Katrina sent him from St. Aug up to Baton Rouge, which is ironic because he went to Southern Lab, and that's where you graduated from, right? Always a power. I remember when I did the recruiting show, we had Marcus Spears fly up, another Southern Lab guy, a great tight end back then.
Man, he was the man.
He was the man. But your son's going to do the opposite thing. He went to Southern Lab, won a state title as a sophomore, first team All-State, by the way, as a sophomore. That's very rare. I'm sure Will's putting up the thing right now with all the guys that won first team. But now he's coming back to St. Aug as a dad. What is this for you? Like you're going to the games now. I mean, of course you probably went before, but you're right here in your hometown.
It's so surreal. With my dad's side of the family, all the men from my dad's side of the family, we all went to St. Augustine, and also Baton Rouge. My mom's side of the family, everybody's Southern Lab.
Right.
We were able to dip in both sides and get the love from Baton Rouge and from New Orleans. But seeing Chad prosper last year at Southern Lab and truly becoming a name for us in high school sports here, but now being able to do it on the big screen, on the big scene with St. Aug Power 5 school or whatnot, it's just amazing, and third generation, me and my brother Raheem being able to do that at St. Augustine.
Another great athlete.
My father doing it, it's just a great thing to see the same fans that watched me and my brother that cheered on with my dad.
That's so cool.
And also now we're able to cheer on my son. It's something that I've always thought of, but walking through it and living through it, it's a proud feeling being a father in the stands.
And I have children that are in their 20s now, and one of the more proud things is watching them become a man, right? And I can see you're in that process right now. You're very mature for your age, I can tell already. What's it like having a dad guide you? Is there sometimes you're like, hey, Dad, I got this already? Or do you follow and say, hey, I need some more advice?
No, I just listen to whatever he got to say because I know he did a lot that I'm trying to do, and I just listen to him sometimes. It's a lot of stuff I know, but I know some of the stuff he said.
I got to give your coach a shout out because he's one of my favorite human beings, not just coaches. Robert Valdez is now the coach at St. Aug. I got to know him years ago when he had a ton of success at St. James. Then he went on to go to Grambling as a coach, but now he's back in New Orleans at St. Aug. I couldn't be happier when Chad told me the other day. I don't know, I haven't seen him in about 3 or 4 years, but I just think he's one of the more positive human beings, and he always makes me feel better when I'm either talking to him on the phone or in his presence. What's he like as a coach these days?
I hear a good coach. He doesn't play around. He pushes us very hard. We work hard day in and day out so we could dominate the opponent, whoever we got.
As a kid that grew up here, I know St. Aug's had some dips, but when I was a kid, it was St. Aug. I mean, Otis Washington. When they came to town, you were that was an L on your schedule. You just knew it. But St. Aug's is always going to be, to me, when I think of high school football, maybe because of the era I grew up in, that's the team I think of first. This is a long line of tradition, a very proud tradition. I played hoops in the same class as Avery Johnson and Donald Royal, and they proud there. But the basketball's great, but football and the band, the Marching 100, that's what everybody thinks about. You're in this tradition now. You're going to be All-State, I'm sure, again, either this year or next, maybe both. But what's it like for you as a young man?
It's great. It's great for me as a young man. I'm just slowly figuring everything out and just hoping to be the best I can.
Well, when you say figuring it out, now you talking about playing on the field now? You got a lot of decisions. I know you're looking at schools. I've been on your Twitter a little bit, and obviously you're looking at some big schools, and I know there's a school right here that's on the up and up. That's called Tulane University. I'm not recruiting for them by any means because I love LSU. I went to LSU. I like them all. Yes. But are you looking to leave the state, or is it a possibility you could stay and maybe play football on local teams?
It's a possibility I could stay or leave, whoever.
You're keeping your options open.
Yes.
So after a season, I'm curious, after the season, because it's changed a lot since I was doing the recruiting show years ago, what is like the spring like for you? I mean, do you have camps at all yet, or is that just in the summer? What's the next 6 months when the season ends for you?
Hopefully, like going to camps and visiting places.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Take advantage of that for sure. And now it blows my mind sometimes when I hear sophomores committing. I know it's not that uncommon. Juniors is kind of regular now. Like they seem to want to fill it up. Are you one of the guys that is going to do it early, or you think you might want to wait till towards the end?
Most likely probably going to wait to explore my options. Yeah.
Smart man. Well, you got somebody guiding you right here. And also, what I didn't lead in, this man played for the New York Giants. He was in the Cincinnati Reds organization. He did it in college. I mean, in 07, the national championship. My favorite line from that year is when Les Miles was trying to talk people into back then there was only 2 teams that went to the championship. No 14 playoff and certainly no 12. And he's like, we're undefeated in regulation. He goes, because they had the 2 overtime losses, double OT to Kentucky, and then the end of the season with Darren McFadden in that group. But that year, I mean, you play with my friend Marlon Favorite. You guys had dude after dude after dude. Glenn Dorsey, all these dudes. What was that like? Because I'm going to talk about the baseball championship too, which was special. But what's that football championship? Because I love to get Skylar Green on the same show as, say, Marlon Favorite, because one's an 03 guy, one's an 07 guy. Which team was better, right?
Correct.
So what was it like there? And then I'm going to get your opinion on how the 17 would have done against the 3 team.
Okay, well, just to give my first opinion, just being a big recruit coming out of Southern Lab, #1 athlete in the country, or safety, however you want to call it. I knew the difference when I walked on the field for the first time practice. I'm just standing in stretch lines. You can just hear Tommy Moffitt, blowing that whistle,
strength
screaming.
coach?
Yeah, strength coach Tommy Moffitt and whatnot. You got Tyson Jackson stretching next to me. You got Glenn Dorsey right there stretching.
Dude after dude.
You got just preseason All-Americans and these guys that I've been watching 2, 3, and 4 years on in and seeing them grow as athletes. I knew that I was in a different culture of football, a different level. I knew something was going to be special, and we put it on that year.
Well, when you chose LSU, I mean, you had options all over the country. We all know that. Like, it's interesting because you came and stayed. I'll never forget, Kevin Falk was a guy that was on my show back in the 90s. And I know Notre Dame and Michigan and Florida State and Florida were all, and that's when those were the powers.
Yes.
And then he chose to stay home. And I remember he's like, I want to make this state look good. I remember 5, 7 years later, Marquise Hill, who went to Dallas South, he came up to Atlanta to be on the show. He goes, I told Nick Saban, I want to build this fence. We're going to win the national championship if we stay. What was your process on staying for the home team and being like a local hero?
Well, like I said, so much of my brother impacted me. My brother, we're 22 months apart. Him coming out, he was at LSU. He was the #2 defenseman in the country.
Wow.
#2 player in the state next to Ryan Paralleau, which we all know was a great athlete.
Phenomenal.
So just growing up under those guys, my brother, and then me already kind of having LSU had a piece of my heart already. I used to just come in and seeing LSU home games, watching Jamarcus Russell, Dwayne Bowe, Buster Davis, Joseph Adai. It was
3 of those 4 had on my show in Atlanta.
Exactly. I can go on. Ali Broussard. It's just seeing these guys, and being able to be in the locker room and knowing that they already had the culture. It was already there for me, and then the big part of my brother being there. I lived and thrived off my brother's energy. And they were great in baseball. Turtle Thomas was recruiting
Turtle
as
Thomas,
well.
yes.
So they were great in baseball. I would drive past LSU and I'd see that banner of those championships right then and there. So coming up, LSU in the top 10 in football and baseball year in, year out, and having Jimbo Fisher on the phone with you every other week, it was a pretty cool thing.
I had a bet with Jimbo Fisher.
Exactly.
Because Chris Lee came out the same year as Jamarcus, and
you got it.
I'll never forget, Jimbo called me, and Jamarcus not only signed on my show, like he put it through the fax machine. And I had Bobby Bowden so mad at me because it's at night, and I'm realizing you're right. He doesn't have a chance to get another quarterback. Chris Ricks left.
Yes.
But my point is, like, when you choose LSU, you came in the glory years, man. Correct. I mean, you're a guy that was mature beyond your years. But when I talk about DBs at the school, it could be quarterback, safety, whatever you want. You're not going to remember guys like Tommy Casanova, who was considered one of the greatest in football. But in your era that you remember watching, it could be when you were a kid, it could be from then to now. Who would you say would be, in no particular order, the 3 or 4 best DBs besides yourself that you've seen at LSU? Because they've had a lot.
The best 3 or 4 DBs that I've seen at LSU. You know, coming up as a young man, when I first started seeing LSU, I used to see some big hits and a guy just sticking his head out there, you know, was always ready, and you know, and that name, you used to see that jersey, the name, you used to see Clark on the back. You know, so seeing Ryan Clark starting it off with me, seeing him how good he was.
I love how you say him, who wasn't even drafted, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying,
but
exactly.
You got how many top 5 picks have there been? I mean,
man.
And then probably Honey Badger would have been if he didn't have some issues at the time.
Definitely. So, you know, once you start throwing, but if you want to start going, you know, those guys, Patrick Peterson, you know.
But not phenomenal.
You know, like I said, the Honey Badger for sure. You know, and one of the smartest guys I've played with, Craig Stelz. You know, Craig Stelz. You know, like I said, that's a guy that used to get me together on the field. You know, I was a young freshman. You know, bushy-eyed. You know, but I can play, but
what
he didn't have all the
What a great guy to kind of learn from. You know,
definitely a guy that I learned from. But I can tell you, when I first walked on the field, and I was a sophomore, my sophomore year, and I saw Patrick Peterson for the first time, I knew something was a little different, or something was a little different about him.
I remember him in Florida. Trust me, I was doing the show before I became an agent. I remember seeing this kid as a sophomore, and I'm like, whoa. And I knew he's starting like LSU, you know, Florida State. I want him. I'd be remiss to not ask you this about your baseball title and your football title. What is different about them, and what gave you a bigger thrill?
Well, with football and baseball, I like to say that I was kind of some of an integral part in both seasons with football and baseball.
I say it every day, yeah.
But running out on that field with LSU, you know, for the first time, my first game, freshman year, LSU versus Virginia Tech, you know, it's nothing that I've ever experienced before.
The Tiger Stadium game?
Tiger Stadium game.
We ran them out the stadium?
We beat them about 30 some odd 40 points. You know, that was
but I remember that game. Yeah.
That was the experience I never forget. But I'm telling you, and pitching on the mound in Omaha.
It's something nothing like that.
And that old Rosenblatt with your helmet off, you know, and everything moves when you move. I've never experienced that feeling, you know. So that would be the highlight of my career, would be pitching on the mound at LSU.
Where were you in that dog pile?
At the bottom. At the bottom.
That's my biggest fear. I'm claustrophobic. And I've always wondered if I got the last out and they dogpiled me, I'd probably just scream like a little baby.
You know, it's on everybody's mind, but once you got that adrenaline pumping, you see your guys, and then you know you got Leon Landry with the cherry on top. You know,
show that one, Will.
Yeah,
if you got
Leon Landry with the cherry on top.
He's like on top. That's one of the more classic championship pictures I've ever seen. Okay, awesome. I'm giving your dad, Big Al, a shirt. I just don't have enough extra larges right now, so I'm gonna track you down, and I'm giving you in the meantime as an IOU. I'm gonna just give you extra gift certificates. So here, so I'm gonna give you one. I don't have your size. I thought I did, but I'm gonna give you. Hey, you know, you just don't supposed to give 25 or 50. How about I'm gonna give you 150? Why not?
Can't lose.
Here you go. This is Mr. John's Steakhouse. There you go, right there. That's a starter for you. And over here, I know the LSU grad that owns Shays de la Shays, and de la Shays is really one of my favorite restaurants in the city. There's another 100 right here. So there you go. You can go to the one on Maple Street uptown off Broadway, or you can go to there's one on St. Charles Avenue by Louisiana. So it's been a pleasure. I can't wait to start following your career a little more, man. You're a great young man, and it's a pleasure, Chad.
Yes, sir. Scott, anytime.
Chad and Chad Jr. And you can't see Big Al, but he's over there. He's a Tulane legend himself. It's been fun, and good luck with everything. And thank you. We're going to sign the ball. Hey, I know you're not committed to LSU, but hey, you might have to get there. This ball's got Brian Kelly on it. That's one of the new ones. I got like 6 balls that are full of signatures. Would you rather sign a Saints ball?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Just in case you pick another school, go a little lower on that LSU ball. I'm just kidding. All right, so there you go. Chad and Chad Jr. and the Jones family, great athletes. And you give him a little signature. There you go. All right, so hey, we're going to next. Hey, you talk about energy, and one of my favorite people. It took me like 30 seconds when I met this guy. I knew I already loved him. John Summerall, the head coach for the Tulane Green Wave. You're already getting a taste. They are just a couple plays away from being 5-0. 2 teams that were top 10 that they really were right there. Hey, this guy's not going to make any excuses. He's like, I want to win them all. I remember being at the Tulane summer fundraiser, and he said, I love to win so much. My kid is 11 years old. He might even talk about the 8-year-old. We play basketball in the driveway. I want to win. I'm not letting him win. So I love that. He's coming up next right here. Mid-season report right here on Primetime Sports.
When we first met Todd, he was singing a song, and I was like, wow, look at this kid with the biggest smile.
Todd's a joy.
Yes.
Todd's really is a great joy.
And you. Learn about adopting a teen at adoptuskids.org.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. I know I went out of the last segment talking about how much I love my next guest's energy, and it doesn't take long for you to figure out why he's so successful. This dude, in 2 years, he only won 2 conference championships over at Troy, stellar assistant coaching career, Ole Miss, Tulane, Kentucky, Troy, maybe even on he's been a lot of places, but he came here after he coached here 10 years ago. We had him on right after he got the job. And oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, his name is John Summerall, and I'm still upset about the Kansas State no call. They should have won that one. They played great. They deserved to win, but they're still rolling. I don't see another loss on the schedule. But welcome to the show again, buddy.
Appreciate you having me, Scott. Glad to be here, man.
First thing I got to bring up is you were on in December, and I was very honored that you came on right after you got the job.
Yeah.
8 months later, 9 months later, what's it been like for you?
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a whirlwind. You know, anytime you're in year one on a job, there's a million things going on, and you're juggling a lot of everything. So you get hired, transfer portal era that we're in, try to retain as many players as you can, add as many players as you can, hire a staff, go through off-season conditioning January, February, get to spring ball March, April, second portal window April, May, summer workouts, and then now we're into the season. So we're 5 games in now. We're really rolling along, and but it's nonstop. There's always something going on. It feels like right now. Year 2 is always calmer, but right now has been nonstop, fast-paced.
I was going to ask you. I know one day that you did let your hair down a little bit because I saw you at Hogs for a Cause, but you guys have the most demanding schedules. I mean, because you just don't feel like, hey, if I'm not using my time to try to recruit or do something, I'm wasting time. What's your whole 9 months been like, especially the summer? Do you just still grind that time too?
Well, I think you got to work hard and you got to play hard too.
Right on.
You know what I mean? Like, I was at Hogs, saw you there. We did
that was a lot of fun, by the way.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Got to be a taste tester in the back tent. Was fun.
Oh, yeah.
You got to enjoy life. Like the work is the work.
Yeah.
But man, we take full of the whole experience in New Orleans. Jazz Fest, got to go see.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you get to go watch Chris Stapleton side stage.
Oh, my God.
You got to go watch Widespread Panic, which was fun, and like a lot of great experiences. And then the summer, we usually get away for about a week and a half, 10 days of vacation time. But really, the job never stops. You're here to serve your players. You're always building the program. You're always recruiting, and so it's nonstop. There's never a day off, really.
Well, I remember when I met you, you were taking calls. Obviously, the portal was opening.
Yeah.
And you're like, because I follow football. I ran the biggest recruiting show in the country for a while back in the 90s and early 2000s. So I'm not into it that much anymore, but I know how it works. And you're like, you say I got to take this call. You're talking like Malachi Nelson. I mean, I'm like the #1 quarterback that was at USC at the time. Now he's at Boise.
Yep.
Is it Nelson?
Yeah, Malachi Nelson, yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, hey, I think, off the record, we might I'm looking at this, who does this guy think he is? And all of a sudden you bring in Ty Thompson in a 5-star. You bring in Alabama guy in a 5-star. You bring in Mario Williams in, who had a huge game this weekend, who I'd done his games at Oklahoma and at USC for Fox. And I'm like, this dude's pulling people in I would never have thought. I mean, I loved Willie. And he got some good players. Michael Pratt's a stud, and some others. Yeah. A lot of guys in the NFL he's gotten.
Oh, yeah.
But you are just going all out. I mean, all of a sudden I said, this guy think he's at Alabama or something? I mean, because you're going for the best of the cream of the crop.
Yeah, I don't think you should ever put a ceiling on who you can attract to your program.
I love that. I love that.
And you're going to get told no some if you're recruiting the right guys.
Right.
It's not, you don't get a yes every time. No. But you don't get any of those guys if you don't at least try. And so we're going to try to attract the best we can to Tulane. I think we got a great opportunity for so many guys. You get to play Division I football at a really high level, get a great degree from one of the best schools in the country, and live in the city of New Orleans. What's not to love about that?
I feel like I'm the recruit being recruited.
You are,
yeah. Right there, that's your pitch.
But it's not a hard sell.
No, it's not,
is
it?
I tell you all the time, if you can't recruit to a place like Tulane, you probably can't recruit. Like, it's not that hard to get guys excited about being here.
You know, to be honest, I grew up a Tulane fan. I ended up going to LSU, so I loved them as well. But except for when they beat LSU 14-0 in '73, I was there, and they had a run with, you know, 79, 82. They were winning. They beat LSU 3-4. Other than the '98 season when they were undefeated, and then Willie's recent success, there hasn't been a lot of reason. But I'm around the country every weekend. And I'm always, you know, my crew always knows I'm either watching a Tulane or LSU game if I have any time off. And they're like, dude, Tulane is on the come. I mean, it's not just around here we know, or even your conference. The whole country is taking notice of Tulane. This is a fact. And I remember going to the Kansas State coach because we had them the very next week. Yeah. And they, by the way, they've been beating the stuffing out of people since your game.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and you basically had them on the roads. My point is, I walked into the, you know the drill, coaches meetings, you go in, the media, I mean the people, the broadcast crew that's calling the game. So I walked in the meeting, I said, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, you got lucky. And he goes, he's looking at Brando, he goes, who's this guy? I said, he goes, he's a homer. I said, you know you got lucky. But he admitted, he goes, you know what? You're right. We did. They're a good football team. You're getting that recognition by everybody.
Yeah, Chris Klein, the head coach of Kansas State's a friend. After our game, he was like, y'all deserve to win. Yeah, he told me, he's like, I think what's happened is in our program, the expectation is for us to win. It doesn't matter who we're playing, where we're playing them, or when we're playing. We expect to win. And when you have that mindset, you really give yourself an opportunity every time you take the field. And I like measuring ourselves against the best. I think playing the Kansas States and the Oklahomas, those are great opportunities for our program to continue to grow and really become the best we can be.
I loved your post-game press conference there too. I told you I tape a bunch of stuff if I'm not able to watch it live. And I loved you like, hey, I'm not, this is not moral victory. No. I want to win these games. I expect to win them. And that's just not something I've been hearing from Tulane my whole life, right? It's like, it's like, whoa, you got me believing that this is going to be on for a while.
Yeah, well, the scoreboard matters. There's a reason they put electricity in the scoreboard because it matters. And so
I love that.
We don't, and I tell our guys, though, you do everything without your eyes on the scoreboard. You're trying to figure out how can I be the best I can be in every little detail I'm doing to be prepared to play the game at the highest level. But you want to win. And anybody that tells you losing's okay, they're a loser. Like, that's not the goal.
Did you hear me at the end of the last segment? I don't know if you were out in the hallway, but did you hear what I said? What I loved, and I know it's like, because I'm a competitor too. I've played hoops. Yeah. My kids, one of them could dunk in 9th grade, but I was not letting that son of a gun win until he was a senior. But my point is, like, at the big fundraiser thing they had at Rizzuto's, you're like, I got an 8-year-old, or was it 11-year-old?
My son's 11, yeah.
11-year-old, and I said, I like to win. That's how much. He's not going to beat me until he can beat me.
No.
And I love that comment, man.
No, I'm going to beat him as long as I can. We play pickup basketball. Like I think if you're not driven to win, then you got a problem with it. You got to be a competitor in this game. You got to love competing at a high level, and you got to want to win.
Can I ask you about? I'm going to get off Tulane just for a minute.
Yeah.
2002.
Yeah.
The Bluegrass Miracle.
Yeah, I was there.
Okay, I'm in Georgia doing a game later that night, and it's in the middle of the day, and I'm with Larry Munson, the legendary Georgia announcer. He didn't even want to tell LSU. Ole Miss coaches were coming through, and they were like dogging LSU. They were talking. I knew they stunk, and I'm like, I want to punch one of these dudes so bad. And of course, it looked like we were going to lose. And then they threw the 10-yard pass to get it to the 25 or whatever. And then they throw the 75-yard Hail Mary to Devery Henderson, a Super Bowl champion in New Orleans. Were you on that team?
On the team. I was a backup. I didn't become a starter until the next year. So 03 was my first year as a starter. 02, I was a backup, played a little bit of special teams, played a little bit on defense. Wasn't really a primetime player yet. The next year, I was on the bench in 02 when that play happened. The Bluegrass Miracle.
But you were there.
I was there. I was standing on the bench with a couple of my teammates that were also youngsters. Yeah. That were backups with me on defense, and we were talking about how much fun we were going to have that night, celebrate the victory. And then obviously didn't go our way.
That's crazy, though, man.
Demoralizing. And you know what? I tell people all the time. That game prepared me for something that came up later as a head coach. My third game as head coach at Troy, we lost to App State on a Hail Mary on College game day.
Oh, wow.
College game day was there.
That's right.
And so I was able to draw back upon that experience to help me as a head coach in a really tough situation. We started that year 1 and 2, told our team, hey, look, some people have real problems in life. This isn't a real problem.
This isn't a real problem.
We're going to pick ourselves up, and we're going to move forward. And that Troy team, my first year, we ended up winning 11 straight games after a Hail Mary loss.
I'm so proud of what you did there.
It was because of that moment. If I didn't have that moment, I wouldn't have been prepared for the moment later as a coach.
When I was an agent, Pat Dye, I worked with him, and we got DeMarcus Ware.
Oh, yeah.
And Pat, for whatever reason, his dad hadn't even coached at Auburn in years, but DeMarcus didn't want to talk to him, and he had been on my TV show. So I'm not saying I got him, but I definitely paved the way, and the guy ended up being Troy's got a nice tradition. Tulane is building a tradition, which I love. But one last thing on that game. That was an ESPY for the best player of the year, and I know Kentucky fans had to hate it because my ex-wife went to Kentucky. I mean, I know a lot of people that went there. I was up there a lot. But to see the kids that were running on the field doing this, and all of a sudden they look over and they just, I don't know if you've seen that video, I just watched it again, and they're just doing this, and the coach has just gotten the Gatorade bath.
Guy Morris has just gotten dunked.
I mean, it's just like, I don't usually feel bad for an opponent, but I remember watching it, I was like, I feel a little bit bad for this.
Yeah, that sucked.
Yeah, so I did a game last year, same thing, Houston.
West Virginia.
That was our game on Thursday night, and it was just the most unlikely thing, and the bomb, and I remember thinking, Holgerson might be fired if they don't win, and sure enough, I think he kept his job for another few games.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. So Neil Brown, the head coach of West Virginia, he and I worked together.
I like him a lot. I'm like their game next week. Yeah.
And Neil went to Kentucky. I met Neil on my official visit to Kentucky.
Wow. Okay.
I worked for Neil at Troy when I was an assistant coach at Troy, and right after that game, Neil and I texted, and he said, "Hey, tell me after the App State Hail Mary game, how did you address your team? What did you do the week moving forward? How did you move on?" And,
wow, okay.
And I think those experiences help you later in life, you know, because you're gonna have hardship, you're gonna have adversity, you're gonna have things not go the way you want, and how you crawl out of those moments and kind of fight back says a lot about who you are.
You know, I just randomly remember when Troy Dannon left here and went to Washington last year, and I had a Washington-Stanford game. He came up and said hello. I knew he was coming, but I had forgotten he'd gone to Nebraska, and I had their game 2 weeks ago. And he just surprised me in the press box. And I like Troy, I've known him for a while. But you know what he told me about you? He says, I don't know how many people are actually going to believe this, but we knew that if Willie was probably going to leave, he was #1 on my list. And I didn't know if you even knew that. He said, that's who, there was only 2 people I was even going to consider, and he was in the lead. Like, I'm like, you mind if I tell him that? Because I think I might have him on soon. He goes, absolutely. Because it was just out of the blue.
Yeah.
Like, he knows we've become friendly.
Yeah, well, Troy did a great job at Tulane.
Yeah.
And a lot of respect for, you know, they elevated what Tulane was the last several years.
Certainly.
And you go back to, 2021, not a great year, 2-10, to the Cotton Bowl year, and the turnaround that's been so substantial. And the guys that were here that helped kind of start that momentum, I'm grateful for what they started. Troy being one of them.
They played some tough games that year, like Oklahoma and Cincinnati, where they almost, the 2-10 is a little misleading, the Hurricane and all, but still it's like, it is what it is. It is what it is.
But they're in a lot of battles, and it kind of it prepared them for what came later.
So right now, you're after Game 5. I have to ask about Mensa because, I knew about Kai Horton. Of course, I knew about Ty Thompson. I didn't know much about him. Tell me what the story was, where he came from, like out of the blue. Some of my friends your practices, and they're like, this kid is probably going to maybe start. And I'm like, y'all are out of your mind. How's that possible?
Yeah.
And then sure enough, and I'm watching the kid on TV, he's got that it factor, man.
He does. So obviously going through the first part of spring practice, Kai and Ty were sort of the talk of the quarterback competition. Right. Darian just kept showing up, and he kept elevating, he kept playing at a really high level through the spring. And Darian was a true freshman the year before I got here. Didn't play in a game. Redshirted and played no game action.
At Tulane?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so was here in 23, but didn't play one snap of football.
Right.
Goes to the spring, really catches my eye a lot, and a couple times post-practice and media availability, I'd say, hey, this Mensa kid, he's got something. I'm not saying it's right now, but he's going to be a dude. And Jason Core,
that's interesting.
Our SID remembers all of it because Jason's like, I remember you always referencing him, and people wondered why you kept bringing up the third guy. And it wasn't, I didn't know that he was going to become the starter, but he kept performing at a high enough level that I wanted to acknowledge that this guy's got a chance.
Wow.
Go through the summer. In my mind, it was still a 2-quarterback race probably. Started a training camp. In my mind, it was Kai or Ty still. And we came back from a practice. We had to go to the Saints one day because of lightning. And we had to go practice over
that's right. Yeah.
We had to practice indoor.
Yeah.
And the day we came back, and my media availability, that post-practice, it was a Tuesday, practice 7 or 8 of training camp, and I come back in the building, go to our media room, and I tell the media crowd that's there, I said, hey, this Mensa kid's going to start if things don't change. Like, he's got a chance. And everybody thought I was just kind of like maybe trying to scare the other guys.
Right,
or
right.
Get them stoked up. And I'm like, no, really, I don't care. I'll start a freshman if he earns it. I'm not gonna. You
lose respect to the team if you don't.
Yeah, you got to play the guy that earns it.
But how do you? Okay, can I be honest with you? How do you tell the 5-star guy? If this is too much, let me know.
No.
But how do you do that? I mean, I don't know how it works because you're an honest guy, obviously. But how does it work? How does he handle that?
I think you have to be relational first to be able to have that kind of authentic, genuine, truthful conversation. And guys respect and appreciate when you tell them the truth. You know, Ty's done some great things. Kai's done some great things. But the other guy just played a little higher level. Yeah. And he'd been a little bit more consistent. Ty and those guys in that room handled it great. They understood. They saw it. It wasn't something they didn't see either. They felt it and saw it. You know it. And I've been really pleased with Ty's response. You've seen Ty. I've been impressed. Still have a big impact on our team. But at the end of the day, we talk about in this game, you get what you earn. And if somebody's earned the opportunity, the right to be starting quarterback, and you don't give them that shot, then you're not really honest to who you say you are. And the biggest thing I'd say is, man, every time it takes a risk a little bit to maybe put that guy out there that's a true or a redshirt freshman, hadn't played a lot.
It blew me away when I heard it because I'm on the road and then I'm watching. I'm like, golly, this guy.
But you have to go with the guy that's earned it. And so he earned it, and it's been fun to watch him grow. He's had some good and some bad so far this season, but the goods outweighed the bad, and I think he's got a really bright future.
Hey, I got to say this. We're running out of time, but the game last week, you talk about a statement, 31-7 at the half, just blew them out 45-10. It could have been 60. Alabama, I watched the last 2 years. The last year they should have lost, right? This year they were struggling all the way through.